Anything that's given is. There was empires in Africa called Kush, Timbuktu, where every race came to get books. My success to you, even if you wish me the opposite. Sooner or later, we'll all see who the prophet is.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love everything about black women.
Everything,
man.
Black woman is the pillar.
Yeah. And I love their attitude. I love the outlook to life.
Flavour, and when I say flavour, like, they don't let anything become dry.
The way our sisters dress, the classiness is unreal. No one does it like them, and everybody copies them.
And I enjoy being a black man because of my mum's teachings, because of my mum's culture, because of the things my mum showed me, and because of the love that my family gave me.
I was brought up by women, mainly women.
Obviously, I was born of a black woman. My grandma's a black woman.
Here's my mum, my grandmother. They were the ones that they ran the ship, and they hold everyone together.
If I'm honest, if it wasn't for the women in my life, my mother and my sisters, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Her hair's just beautiful and long and flowing. The other day we took it out of braids for probably the first time, and it just had kinks all over the place. Yeah, she's just gorgeous.
My girlfriend right now is white, but I've dated Japanese girls, black girls. I don't discriminate. That's what I say.
I look for women with big backs. Yeah, I like a big back. I like good sized boobs as well. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, she has to be pretty because you need to be able to introduce her to your family.
I like a tall woman. I'm a tall guy, and I mean, some people get intimidated by a tall woman. I like a tall woman aesthetically. I like someone who looks good in a pair of jeans. Now, this is not talking about a big bum or a small bum. I'm talking about a bum that fits the wearer. So whoever you are, if the pair of jeans looks good on you, good. And also someone who can shake a leg. I like a girl who can dance, because I like to dance.
Naturally, I've got to say, to be honest here, it's black women I'm naturally not attracted to. But I've recently been to the Caribbean, Latin America, went to Cuba. So women there, they were kind of hot, so my preference kind of changed into that, to exotic woman basically. That's what kind of like now.
Yeah, I'm international. I don't really mind about that. I don't really care. Black, white, Chinese. I don't really mind as long as you have the specific features that I'm looking for.
I mean, I always have this conversation with my girl because she's about my skin tone, and she said, a lot of black guys just go for mixed race girls because that's the in thing, and dark skinned girls are seen as I guess difficult or hard to be with or just not pretty. Obviously that's not the case, but yeah, I just think it's a matter of I guess ignorance really.
I do think a lot of them were trying to be diplomatic, and their answers did start changing when I left, because the first couple of answers I was standing there and there was kind of a difference, but yeah, I thought it was interesting nonetheless. That film that Tony showed demonstrated there are lots of black people and black men that do not subscribe to this, but we don't tend to see those stories represented, and I have a lot of experience with kind of producing content for different platforms, and generally in England they're really, not only is there not a commitment, but there is a deep-seated reluctance to representing black stories, very much so. I'm encountering that constantly. So we're kind of lucky in a way. This is the first time where, because of the internet and social media and stuff, we can actually kind of have our own platform.
We've sort of taken on black, and it's empowering for us, and it's a positive thing, but I think that for other people it's actually quite a negative thing, and I've come across this quite a lot, even today, which still sort of surprises me. So for example, I was talking to an ex-colleague, and he was telling me that he'd seen this woman on a bus, and he said she was black but stunning. And he didn't really think about what you were saying, but actually just those 3 words said a lot about what people think about black people. This woman was probably, she was stunning, but the way he said she was black but stunning,
Thank you very much for your lecture. It's really informative and eye-opening. And I did my dissertation a few years ago on the psychological impacts on black women of the Eurocentric worldview of beauty. pertaining to hair. And there was lots of findings, and that was really, enlightening, and it just showed what this lady was talking about, that a lot of black women do not love themselves. There is a psychological problem with them not accepting their hair. So with the issues that we have, yes, it's important for us to love ourselves, but it's easier said than done. What would you say is the answer to how black people, especially black women, can get to learn to love themselves really, truly, and deeply?
So, as I said, I teach African studies, and my first degree was in African studies, and I think through that I actually developed a deep-seated awareness, because we're told that everything that's African is inferior, basically, to everything else. Including African hair, which is this huge issue, and I write a lot about hair as well. So everything that's associated with Africa is inferior to everything else, from kind of political systems to things that seem as superficial as hair. But I think actually kind of really engaging in African studies, I saw how sophisticated and advanced so many African pre-colonial cultures had been, that there was really nothing to be ashamed of. It was actually just kind of dishonesty and conditioning, kind of completely misrepresenting what it meant to be African. I think it is a lot. The thing about saying, "Oh, just love yourself," is a lot easier said than done. People say it all the time. I'm like, yeah, but how do you go about doing it? It took me till I was 32 to be able to stop relaxing my hair and to have natural hair. And even when I first cut it off, I actually didn't want to. I really liked, because femininity is kind of very much associated with hair, and hair being kind of long and flowing and very, that's kind of womanly, and then shorter hair, Afro hair is again doesn't have those kind of feminine kind of connotations. So I cut mine off, but I felt like I couldn't relax it and align that with my politics, but I still actually didn't want to stop relaxing it. But then it was actually through the process of doing that and kind of engaging with my hair, and actually coming to know my hair texture for the first time, which I had actually never known. I didn't even know what texture hair I had. And then discovering how versatile it was and how beautiful it was and how many different things I could do with it. Then there was kind of a process.
What do you think black men can do to help the plight of black women in regards to issues on hair, complexion, white appropriation, and just in general loving themselves? As the lady here just said, it's not enough just to love natural hair. Natural hair doesn't mean that you love yourself. So what do you think black men can do to help black women in that respect?
Yeah. So I actually think there's a lot of misconceptions about black men. I that they don't like natural hair, for instance. I have never gotten so many compliments about my appearance from all manner of types of black men since I've had natural hair. They actually really seem to love it, whatever style it's in. So I don't even agree that black men don't like natural hair. I think that's a misconception. But I think it would be. So I've met. What can they do? On an individual level, I think it would just be nice to just see more examples, particularly in this country, of black relationships. Obviously they exist, but I actually, sometimes when I see a black couple, I almost do a double take, because it's actually it seems quite rare. So I guess putting their money where their mouth is, and maybe dating black women rather than white ones would be a good start. What else?
I was thinking about what you said about the way that urban has been associated with black and rural has been associated with white, and I'm really interested in the deconstruction of history. So my question is, how do we get white people to recognise whiteness, and how do we cut through those kind of stereotypes of different spaces?
How do we get white people to recognise whiteness? That's a huge question that I don't think I can answer quickly. I think it's all part of a process. But I speak to a lot of white people and white audiences, and because white people don't really see themselves as being racialised. And I even had I'm Irish, my mum's Irish, but I also grew up in Ireland. And I had a conversation with an Irish woman yesterday, and she was like, just that typical thing of do you not think that you're kind of making this an issue by talking about it? And I was just oh, you just need kind of white privilege 101. like the idea that you don't think about race because you're like evolved in some way, that's this luxury, that's this privilege that you have, that you don't have to think about it because you're not like a racialized person. So the thing that I can do is I try and like write in a way where like, because sometimes like I far prefer speaking to black audiences and writing for I far prefer speaking to black audiences. I think that's what I said. I would say white audiences. I'm writing for black audiences, but then sometimes I think it's really important that I also like write for white audiences, because I have actually had like a number of white people like have read stuff that I've written and come back to me being like, oh, I didn't really hadn't really thought about that before, I didn't really understand it, and like that's actually kind of made me like reconsider. So for me, I would say mine is writing, but everybody probably has their own thing that they can do to kind of like challenge the ubiquity of whiteness.
Talk again. So I'm studying fashion psychology at London College of Fashion, and I'm really looking at race within fashion. And I've noticed that a lot of black women in particular will complain about the lack of diversity you see in fashion. And particularly, I think last week in Teen Vogue magazine, they had a feature on braids and like Bantu knots, and they only featured white models. But then on the other hand, you'll have a lot of black magazines and black publications and other black businesses coming up in the UK that are just not receiving support from the black community themselves. I mean, we've heard a lot of people talk about hair, but then who do we go to buy our hair? We go to Asian men. We don't go to our own businesses, we don't support each other. So I want to kind of ask, like, what do you think is the foundation for us as black people to kind of get behind ourselves and support each other so our businesses can grow?
Wow. That's a really important question, and what you identify about, like, so the amount of obviously the hair industry is like a huge, like, £1 billion industry, but that money isn't really benefiting black people. To be honest, if there's anybody in the room that can kind of like answer that, like, I don't know what the answer to that is. I would really like to like kind of develop that. But how is that addressed?
Cartels within the Asian industry. I know black business and entrepreneurs try to penetrate.
There's a cartel-like structure that barricades anybody coming into it. So that's how they recycle the pound within their community, and they ensure that the people that they're selling to don't look like the people who should be buying it.
So then what can be done to contest that?
I just wonder whether this whole absence of black women, if there's a precursor, if it starts from early on. I've noticed that a lot of department stores, shops, various brands, when I see children advertised, I see a lot of white children. I see maybe the occasional East Asian, Chinese-looking child. You'll see light-skinned black children that look like they could be mixed race. Occasionally you'll see the odd black boy, but rarely have I ever seen a black girl that looks like she's got two black parents. I remember once seeing a Debenhams advert a couple of years ago, I think it was Christmas time, and I saw a black girl and I had to stop and just look at the advert just for a couple of minutes, just because it's something that I hadn't seen before, and this is in the 2000s, and I just wondered if you had an opinion about
that. I think you're absolutely right, and I think often there's kind of no frame. I think that actually comes down to hair as well, because I think often why they use like mixed race children is because they have like this curly like hair that is really popular in advertising, and the only way it seems that like to have a black person present in a way that's like palatable is for them to kind of have those features. But yeah, that's like, thinking about it, I don't remember ever seeing a black child, a black girl, and I don't really ever see like children that look like they could have two black parents. It's usually like they look like they have one black parent. So yeah, absolutely.
Last word from you, Emma, please. Last word.
Just thank you so much, all of you, for coming, and I guess, just kind of remain like vigilant of these processes that are happening, and whatever like work you can do, we can all do towards dismantling them. Tony's whole, what Tony was saying about this being like a unique space where this happens, this is very true. I'm very much immersed in academia, and there is such a lack of presence of black people of African descent, you really don't get content like this in any of the universities. So come get involved and like kind of support the work that is happening. Thank you, everyone.
Tony, as you know, my name is Raquel Thompson. I've been here about 3 weeks. This is the second of your events I've attended. Can you tell us what was going on today?
Well, today we had an event called Who Stole All the Black Women from Britain? It's about the lack of black women in British media and why that's the case and the effects on people. And we had about 200 people in that room. It was packed out, only room to stand in there. And we've just finished like a 2.5-hour session and we're just out here chatting, chilling out.
Where did you get the idea for this kind of conversation?
Well, for this particular one, Emma DeBerry, who presented the event, she'd actually written a blog titled Who Stole the Black Women from Britain? And that went viral, went around the world. Bell Hooks kind of, added some stuff to it. And I figured there must be interest in that topic here. So I organized a lecture around the blog. And the first one was sold out, 150 people. So we thought we'd do it again, and we just had 200 people. And even now, people are still outside chatting about the event.
Right. What were some of the comments that stayed with you?
I think the comments that stayed with me were what some of the women said about how the presentation had affected them and how relevant it was to their experiences, and how they'd heard certain things being said amongst their family group that were actually in the presentation about, light skin, dark skin, and how much it affected their own personality. That stuck with me. And also the level of interest, because we had allocated about 45 minutes for questions and answers, and they had about 15 people who want to ask questions at like 10 to 9, and we had to finish the event at 9 o'clock. So there's a lot of interest and a lot of kind of room for debate on this topic, but it's not being served, at least not adequately.
What are you expecting to see in the struggles that we've gone through as a race?
How we've come through it, and how black women are survivors and they never give up. But I also expect to learn something new that I didn't know, so I can go away and then look up and read up.